Hardin Leadership and the Hardin County Chamber and Business Alliance, in conjunction with WKTN, presents Meet the Candidate, sponsored by FLR Insurance Center, Quest Federal Credit Union, Stillwater Metal, Middlefield Bank, and Golden Giants. Now, live, here is moderator Russ Blue.
Available on WKTN.com tomorrow. We will have two segments. The first consisting of the four candidates for Hardin County Commissioner will last 50 minutes, and the second consisting of the two candidates for the 83rd Ohio House District will last 30 minutes. All candidates tonight are Republicans due to the simple fact that these are the only two contested races in the March 19th primary. They have all agreed to the rules, and the question order has been determined at random. Before we start, please silence your cell phones for the duration of the program. Asking the questions tonight are Melissa Humble, Kirk Shepard, Andrew Tudor, and Frank Dudak, all of which are alumni of Hardin Leadership. Questions were sourced from Hardin Leadership alumni and the public from WKTN's website. Questions were screened and ultimately decided on by Meet the Candidate Committee. The candidates have not seen the questions. The panelists and I just received the questions this evening. With that, let's begin by introducing our commissioner candidates. In alphabetical order, we have Michael Kastler, Kathy Kelly, Paul Osborne, and Joe Sherman. Welcome and thank you for being here. Question panelists tonight, like I said, is Frank Dudak, Melissa Humble, Andrew Tudor, and Kirk Shepard. I already introduced the candidates. So, the first question will be asked by Frank Dudak, and answering the first question will be Michael Kastler.
Evening, sir.
What is your vision for Hardin County, and what would you advocate for in the next 4 years and why?
On what type of infrastructure changes need to be made to be ready for 20, 30 years from now. I mean, I've seen just how incredible amount of traffic has increased just in the past 20 years, and it's not going to get any lighter. You know, our roads we have good roads, but I'm also thinking about, you know, things like water for the community, you know, sewer, emergency services. I think we need to start having a discussion of how we're going to address those for not just individual communities, but for the county in general. My vision is to not look so much to the present, but to look further into the future and perhaps like form some type of a committee to look at those things.
Your time is up. Ms. Kelly?
Could you repeat the question, please?
What is your vision for Hardin County? What is your vision for Hardin County? What would you advocate for in the next 4 years and why?
My vision for the county is that we all work together collectively for growth, you know, to sustain the growth in the county. I think that we definitely need to have relationships, and part of the vision is building relationships and building communication with people. as well as Mike mentioned, you know, the infrastructure. If we want to grow the county, we need to have the appropriate things in place, and unfortunately, I feel that where we are right now, it's a slow-turning ship, and, you know, we need all hands on deck to get it turned around. And it didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to get changed overnight. That's why I think it's important that we have some open-mindedness and really dive into what are the things that we can bring to the county, and how can we get the people in the county to thrive as well, you know, to be good stewards of the money in the future years, 20 to 30 years from now. We should leave it better than it is today. And I'm committed to making that happen collectively with the others that are in the county and municipalities.
Thank you. Mr. Osborne.
Well, I guess you would say my platform would be from a philosophical perspective. I see mainly, at least from my vantage point, much of the difficulty that we have in the county is because of basically, I think, somewhat of a loss of civic pride. I think that we need to have more community involvement. I think that we have to promote more personal responsibility, and I think it has to start very young. As far as the commissioner goes, I would be inclined to want to be in front of people, whether it be children in elementary schools or whether it be the mayors of the villages, whether it would be firefighters and ambulances and all this, and finding out what it is that they need. Let me give you an example. I sit on an ambulance board, and the chief told me, we're in high schools. And I said, well, that's great, you know, trying to pump up volunteerism. I said, that's great, but you're too late. You need to be in elementary schools. And so I think that kind of a face for the county is something that a commissioner has opportunity to do, and I hope to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Mr. Sherman.
What is your vision for Hardin?
My vision is growth. With growth, we have everything. We've got schools, every place has a new school right now, getting being finalized. We are poised right now to grow and bring jobs, build our tax base, have a better community for everyone involved. When you do this, you have to have infrastructure, which will draw money. When you are showing your growth, Columbus takes a look at you. That's where your money's at. Kenton's a fine example. They're getting ready to do a big project because they see growth. This is for all of Hardin County, just not Kenton. We have the opportunity to have the route through the corridor up north. You have Forest, you have Dunkirk, you have 80, 7 minutes away from 30. You can go either direction, you know, any major interstate highway you want. Sitting in the commissioner's office, this is what it's about. That's one of our jobs, is growth. Infrastructure is another one, and communication. To get everybody on board, you have meetings with every village, every city. Sit down with the individuals that actually run them. Talk to them, see what their vision is. That way, we can all plan ahead to get where we need to be and to grow our community forever.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Okay, just to show that we are human and sometimes we do things just out of order, we did not do the bios for the candidates, so we're going to go back. Since you all answered a question and now you're relaxed and all come, we'll go back and start with the 3-minute bios. Mr. Kessler, it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee for putting on this presentation. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the community to hear from us. As for me, I've been a public servant practically my whole life. I started when the state of Ohio hired me as a highway patrol trooper in 1985. And I was a trooper for 25 years. I served at the Delaware, the Lima, and the Marion posts. And during that time, I spent the majority of my time in the field. However, I did have a period of time I was an instructor at Art Academy. And I had a very instructive period beginning 1991 in which I was the personal bodyguard for Governor George Voinovich and his wife Janet every Wednesday evening for 2 years at their residence, the governor's mansion in Bexley. I had many opportunities to talk to the governor, and I was a great admirer of his, and I learned so much from him. He was very frugal, he was a penny pincher, but he was not afraid to spend money on infrastructure. And he was a very compassionate leader, and he had great feelings for the underprivileged in Ohio, even though he was a Republican. Sometimes we get a bad rap from that, but I'm very sympathetic as well. After I retired from the patrol in 2010, I went to law school at Ohio Northern, and I graduated with my law degree in 2017. I started an oil and gas title company in the eastern state of Ohio, and even though I'm well-versed in oil and gas, I believe I'm also well-versed in solar and wind, because those two renewable energies are pretty much identical to the title issues in the law as oil and gas is. I'm also the zoning officer for Buck Hale and Pleasant Townships in Hardin County, and I've had extensive dealings with solar fields. In fact, I've approved 2 permits for solar projects here in Hardin County, one in Buck and one in Pleasant. And I put the companies through a very strenuous period of time where I made lots of demands upon them to give the Hardin County the best deal possible. And they gave me what I asked. And I believe it was my experience with oil and gas negotiating and lease writing and things that gives me an advantage with the solar people. I'm also the trustee of a state retirement system. There's 5 of them in Ohio, and I'm a trustee on the smallest one, which is a highway patrol retirement system. But even though it's the smallest one, I still manage $1.1 billion in pension and health care benefits for our retirees. I'm also the chairman of the health care funding committee for the retirement system, in which I manage $124 million of health care benefits for my constituents. I believe all these experiences will do me well, and it puts me in a really good position to be the next commissioner of Hardin County.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Ms. Kelly?
I'm Kathy Kelly. A little bit about me: I grew up in Findlay, Ohio. I've been a resident and business owner in Hardin County for 21 years. I'm a military veteran. I'm a Desert Storm veteran. I served 4 years in the Navy as a pipe fitter and a welder and a brazier. I was co-owner of S&K Mini Mart down in Ridgeway, Ohio, and a business partner, and I started another flooring and commercial power washing business that I currently still have. I am a deputy director for the Hardin County Veterans Service Office here in Kenton, Ohio. And, the reason that I want to run for county commissioner is I'm ready for a change. I think the people are ready for a change. And I think what I can bring to the table is the commitment, the accountability, to bring people together, to look at the resources that we have, and are we using them to the full extent? And it's not just about the infrastructure and the economic growth and solar fields. It's about the low-income families in this county. We need to really, in my opinion, take a hard look at that. Some mental health things, some addiction things, because the better our county residents are, the better they are for us, and the better they can contribute to the county. I think that, having a finger on the pulse and realizing the value that your employees bring to the county, your employees are the biggest drivers when it comes to the county. And I'm a firm believer that everybody brings something to the table, and that a listening ear can be a learning ear. Sometimes people say, well, what do they want in the county? Well, we need to listen to them, and we need to ask questions. And finger on the pulse when it comes to the budget. I think they've done a very nice job of not squandering what we have, but are we utilizing it to the extent that we can use it? And I know that there's some issues with solar farms and the pilot program. I think once people have a better understanding of it and it makes sense to them, it's a little easier to swallow. I know for me, the more educated I am, the better I am to make a decision. And, and I think that that's very important. I'm all about growth and change and open-mindedness. I'm not that person that just because it's not my belief or something I don't agree with, if it's right for the residents and it's right for the county and it's right for the budget, then let's go ahead and do it, because we need to start marching forward. And those are just some of the things and the reasons why I want to be a county commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Osborne.
Well, I'm Paul Osborne. I am in my third term as Marion Township trustee. I'm also the village administrator of Alger, and I'm also the pastor of Emmanuel Baptist Church in Lima. July 1st, 1742, Jonathan Edwards preached the greatest sermon since the Acts of the Apostles. That sermon, sinners in the hands of an angry God, kindled a fire which swept through the colonies, and it was known as the Great Awakening. That phenomenon which prepared the hearts of a people to govern themselves, kicked this country off. They recognized that if a people will not be controlled from within, they must be controlled from without. And that's a principle that I believe. We've forgotten this as a people, I think. We no longer teach it to our children, nor do we demand it of our elected officials. We become so tightly bound to the government, we're willing to let it do everything for us. We become so introverted as a people, we struggle to maintain a workforce to drive our economy, and which inevitably leads to more government and higher taxes. The only way we can reduce the tax burden is to quit expecting our government to do everything for us. We put forth giant tax levies. I know. I've seen it over in my parts. Giant tax levies. Why? Because volunteerism is rapidly declining in Hardin County, but everywhere for that matter. But because the volunteer spirit is declining, we have to do things about it. And what does it mean? Well, it means going for a levy and that type of thing. We pay a number of government entities to handle what used to be our own responsibilities. So I think that our problems go much deeper, maybe, than just dollars and cents. If you elect me as commissioner, I will seek to promote economic development. I will seek to reduce property taxes as much as feasibly possible, and I will do my best to restore a spirit of liberty in Hardin County, which includes promoting volunteerism, civic pride, community involvement, and personal responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Mr. Sherman.
I'd like to start off by thanking the leadership for having this tonight. This way it reaches everybody, and I think all four candidates are in agreement on that. My name is Joe Sherman. I've been born and raised here in Hardin County all my life. I grew up on a dairy farm 6 miles east of Kenton, in Goshen Township, where we milked cows till I was about 21 years old. So I understand what hard work's about. I understand what I need to get the job done. It's 365, 7 days a week. No different than what the commissioner's job is. They say it's a part-time job, but it's not. It's a full-time job because you're responsible for 30,700 people. That's your job, 365. I'm a Goshen Township trustee, been there for 19 years. I sit on the Grove Cemetery Board the same amount of time where I sit with 3 other entities, Buck, Pleasant, and the City of Kenton. So I have the experience as far as the background to handle different entities in the government. I was blessed to be married to my wife, Tammy Osborne Sherman, and we have 2 beautiful kids, Diane Root and Jenna Lemay. I'm blessed that they are still residing in Hardin County. That is why I'm running. I want my grandchildren, if I'm lucky to have some, that's out of my control, but if I'm lucky to have some, I want them to have the opportunities I've had, to to stay here, grow roots like I have. That's what it's about. You've got to have jobs. You've got to have something here for them to stay. That's why I'm running. I worked at Rockwell for around 15 years off and on. When I say off and on, because it was feast and famine. So when I talk about economic growth, it's personal to me, because I know it's like when you're out of a job. I understand the downturn in the economy when that place went out. I work for the city of Canton. I work for the county engineer's office. I understand infrastructure. That's what I know. I've been in more holes than most people's ever seen in their life. Is it pleasant? Absolutely not. The job gets done. That's how you know what goes on. So with that being said, I have the background as far as the finance. I have the background as far as the infrastructure. At the end of the day, I resigned my position at the county engineer's office to run for this job. It was a conflict of interest, and Hardin County means so much to me. I gave up a job of a lifetime to run, bar none. It was a choice that I had to make. So in closing, before that bell rings again, thank you for your patience, and thanks again for having us.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Okay, now let's get back on track, and we'll move to question number 2. And Melissa Humble will be giving, Andrew Tudor will be giving question 2, and the first one to answer will be Ms. Kelly.
Good evening, Candace. I'm afraid your bios may have stole a little bit of the thunder out of this question, but I'll ask it nonetheless. How long have you been part?
21 years. As far as service in the county, owning a mini mart and dealing with state fire marshals, underground storage tanks, 3 different types of fuel, and just being a servant to the people, to the customers. As far as my involvement in the government in the county, obviously owning a business, we have to deal with the auditor, we have to deal with some tax issues. And currently, as the Deputy Executive Director for the Veterans Office, I take care of all of our budget, which is 0.5 mil of tax, land tax. But I take care of all the budget. I pay all the bills. So I understand when it comes to how the county government works and what takes place within that. I've done it for 3.5 years, and I'm currently, in an unclassified position. But being in the courthouse every day has given me a leg up, I feel, as far as being able to see firsthand what takes place, some conversations behind the scenes, how employees feel. So I think that that brings a lot to the table.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Mr. Osborne.
I met my wife at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh in 1982. By 1983, we moved up here to Hardin County, and I want to be buried here. It is a wonderful place, and I love it. I love the people of it. As far as my public service, I have been Marion Township trustee now for 2.5 terms. I've been 10 years. And also, I've been the village administrator of Alger for the last 6 years. Of course, that has exposed me to many, many things, including some things that were mentioned here, infrastructure and budgeting and all of that. And so that is my experience as far as public service. But beyond that, I've been a pastor for 10 years as well. I was a Bible teacher for 30 years. I dealt with people and their difficulties and their problems for many years. In addition to that, for the last 30 plus years, I was a graphic designer right here in Hardin County. And I've rubbed shoulders with and handled virtually every discipline in Northwest Ohio, from agriculture to politics to government to the medical field to all of these because I was a marketer, and I took what they had to say, and I did it for them.
Thank you. Mr. Sherman?
Can you repeat just so I can screw this up, please?
Certainly. How long have you been a part of the Hardin County community? How long have you spent in local government in the county, and in what capacity or capacities?
As I said before, I was born and raised here in Hardin County. Been on the farm all my life, still farm. Been a Goshen Township trustee for 18 plus years. Also sat on the Grove Cemetery board for the same amount of time. I've also had just as many years in as the city of Canton and the county garage. So like I said before, I've seen both sides of the fence. I've seen where the decisions are made and why the decisions are made and the other thing. I've also had the opportunity to go to the county commissioners meeting every Tuesday and Thursday for the last, since after the fair. I haven't missed a meeting. I figured if you're going to do the job, you gotta actually understand what the job's about. So you go up there and you see how the process actually works. I mean, everybody can read the notes, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of things that said that you have to actually be there to actually understand what's going on. Other than that, that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sherman. Mr. Caston?
My wife and I got married in 1991. I was a trooper at the Delaware Post. In December of 1992, we moved to Hardin County because I was promoted to sergeant at the Lima Post. So I've lived in Hardin County since December of 1992. As a state trooper, I was subject to a federal law called the Hatch Act. And because of that, I was prohibited any type of public activity. I could not be active in any party. But I was an active member of the Hardin County Republican Party to the extent that I would go to the functions and stuff. I was allowed to put a sign in my yard, but the federal government said that was it. So it was only after I retired that I could get involved in local politics and local government service. I worked in Hardin County Prosecutor's Office under Brad Bailey for a couple of years, writing briefs for him and doing research and helping him with criminal stuff. For the past several years, I've been investigator for the Treasurer's Office and as well as the Prosecutor's Office in conducting tax delinquency title investigations. I do for pretty much all of them. As I said, I've been a zoning officer for Buck Hale and Pleasant Township for about 5 years. And I guess that's pretty much about it.
Thank you. Question number 3 will come from Melissa Humble. And Mr. Osborne, you will answer first.
What is your greatest accomplishment?
My greatest accomplishment, can I answer them either way? Like, one first. My greatest accomplishment in my life, I would have to say, is marrying my wife, because she gave me 6 children. I absolutely adore. As far as my business life, my greatest accomplishment, I believe, was becoming pastor of my church. I was a Bible teacher there, and during that period, our pastor, his health was failing, and after 30 years in the pulpit, he decided it was time to step down. And to my surprise, somewhat, the people of the church asked me to be their pastor, and that was a wonderful day. I love these people, and I love teaching the Word of God to them, and I wouldn't want to do anything else. That is my greatest accomplishment.
Thank you. Mr. Sherman?
I'm going to go with what Paul said. My wife, Tina, my children, our children, Jen and Todd. It also goes hand in hand with being a farmer. That's my career. When you put a seed in the ground, you have to have faith. I mean, how's that seed know to go up or down? You know, all the scientists in the world ain't gonna tell you that. You gotta have faith. It's just like your children. When you see them grow, you do everything to nourish them, to make them what they are. No different than the crop I plant. You put everything out there. just how it is. So I guess my two biggest accomplishments, my family, and I'm a farmer. I can't beat it, so.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Mr. Cassidy.
Of course, my biggest personal accomplishment is my family. I'm married to my wife Tina for 32 years now, and she's a school teacher in Marion County. We have 2 kids. John is a lineman for Mid-Ohio Energy Power Company here, and my daughter is a registered nurse at Toledo Children's Hospital. And Ashley is married and have 2 grandchildren, with a third one on the way. As far as professional accomplishments, my farm also is very important to me. My wife and I bought our farm where we live in 1993, and I've owned it and farmed it ever since. But I think the biggest accomplishment of my career professionally is that I survived 25 years as state trooper. When you graduate from the academy, the governor signs your piece of paper and he tells you, here's your gun, here's your badge, over yonder is your patrol car, go enforce the law. And you are on your own, and you take out, when you leave the parking lot, you are representing the state of Ohio. And I represented the state of Ohio every day for 25 years in the most professional manner that I could, in a very honorable manner. I never shot anybody, I never got shot. In fact, I was a very, not gentle, I was very firm, but I was very good at talking to people. And I talked my way out of many situations where others would have gotten into tussles. So I think I had a very good career, and I did a good contribution for the state of Ohio.
Thank you. Ms. Keller.
You know, on a personal level, I've had several major accomplishments in my life, and I think as most people grow, those kind of change and hopefully become bigger. But one of the biggest accomplishments in my life was the day that I raised my hand and joined the United States Navy. I don't think, hands down, that there's in my life anything bigger that I have accomplished. To go away from home, to leave your family, to miss holidays, leave everything behind, and go to an unknown place and find your brothers and sisters, there is no greater honor than serving your country. So I'm so fortunate that I chose that path. You know, I've had businesses and success. I'm able to continue to help veterans through what I currently do. But I think one of the greatest things that I've been able to do is I've been able, at the age I am, to finally find myself. And in finding myself, I'm able to be available to other people. That's why, as a county commissioner, I would bring those skills, you know, all the skills that I talk about. So my greatest accomplishment was finding a power greater than myself and finding myself within that.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Question number 4 will be asked by Kurt Shepard, and Mr. Sherman, you will answer first.
What qualities and experience
My qualities is, if I say it, we're going to do it. I don't believe in just bumping your gums to hear yourself talk. Never have, never will. Experiences, like I said, still a trustee, served on different boards. It's just experience you have. At the end of the day, the commissioner's office, you have to listen. You have 30,700 employees, or, well, you're the employee, I guess, they're your boss, I should say. You have to listen. You have to understand. You have to communicate. That's all of it right there. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to make a decision. And you live with it. And I've done that my entire life. You plant too early, you plant too late, whatever. You live with what you've done. So, with that being said, that's what you have to do as a commissioner. You know, you're going to have people that, no matter what you do, they're never going to be happy with you. But as long as you can look them in the eye and say, this is the reason, and you follow through with why you did it, you'll be fine. So,
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Mr. Cassidy.
Sir, would you please repeat the question?
Yes. What qualities and experience
I believe my experience as a state patrol trooper taught me the rule of law and how vital it is for the rule of law to be followed. A county commissioner is bound by the rules that are set forth in Ohio Revised Code 303.007, and he cannot do anything that is not listed in the law. I mean, the law tells what he can do, and if it's not there, he can't do it. So a commissioner is required to follow the law. And as far as qualities that I bring, I'm a team player. You know, I sit on a board, a retirement board system. There are 7 elected officials, including me, and 3 appointed, one by the governor, one by the treasurer, the other by the attorney general. And I'm a 1 to 10 on that board, and I'm a team player. But I'm not at all afraid to raise my hand and voice my concern when something's not right. I'm definitely not a yes vote, as my companions have discovered. And I'm very firm in my convictions, as you can imagine. And I have very good listening skills. I think that one of the most important things that a leader can have is the ability to listen to other people's problems. I never jump to conclusions. I make reasonable decisions, and I listen to everybody's problems with deep concern.
Thank you, Mr. Castle. Ms. Kelly.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What qualities
The qualities that I bring are some qualities that I've learned through Union County leadership. It taught us communication skills. It taught us about accountability. I learned about the different avenues that you have to get people engaged as far as, not only is it listening, but it's asking. And I'm not afraid to ask people. I'm not afraid to ask people their opinion. I want people to talk so we can listen, so we can gather the information that we need to. A servant leader, county commissioners should be servants before they should be leaders. And I think that's very important. People need that. They need to know that we are serving them and that their best interest and the county's best interest is at stake. I sit on the HHWP board out of Findlay, and I also sit on their Planning and Development Committee. I believe that the other thing I bring to the table is the understanding of business. I owned a very lucrative business for 10 years in this county. I've owned rental properties. I understand about people and finances and how hard it is for them to find places to live within the county, and as well as my other business. So I do bring a lot of knowledge and a lot of skill to the table.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Mr. Osborne.
One more time. Okay, as far as qualities, number one, I'm a creative thinker. I'm also a communicator. I'm also a problem solver. I've been doing that my whole career. As far as bringing to the table, let me say, when I was a graphic designer, like I mentioned last time, and commercial artist and marketer, I'm able to take specific information and communicate it in a manner that the people can understand. I think that's very important. Also, as a village administrator, infrastructure, water, sewer, storm sewer, and all of that, and going above myself in order to gain the resources that we need. Alger's a small village. Like the other villages, we don't have much, and we lean hard on those who can actually get things done. Jesus told a parable of a widow who needed justice, so she went to the king, who feared neither God nor man. And she went to him, and he's like, "Get out of here, woman." And she kept going to him and going to him and going to him, and finally, he gave her what she needed just to get rid of her. That's the kind of guy.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. We have time for one more question before closing arguments or closing statements. We're going to make this interesting. Okay, the next question will be from Mr. Dudek, and Mr. Castler, you will be answering first.
Will you be a full-time?
I have a couple current positions. I'm a zoning officer for 3 townships, plus I also maintain an oil and gas title business. My title business has been kind of unwinding for several years. The low-hanging fruit is gone, so I'm about ready to leave. In fact, I talked to my attorney day before yesterday about liquidating. So he's currently in discussions with people about buying my company. So when that happens, then I'll no longer be in the oil and gas business. As far as the zoning, the 3 townships that I work for, they want me to stay. I checked with the Ohio Attorney General's office, and they are compatible with the position of a commissioner. But I told the trustees that, we might try it for a while, but if it becomes too much, then I'll leave. Because being a county commissioner is far more important. Both are important, but if the demands of the county commissioners are such that it's not fair to the public, then I would give up the township positions. And I'm only 64 years old, so I'm in this for the long run.
Thank you, Mr. Castler. Ms. Kelly?
Yes, it would absolutely be a full-time job for me. There is no part-time. I believe that, the experience that I've had through this process has really opened my eyes to the amount of work that is done behind the scenes, behind the commissioners' meetings, that goes on. And it is a full-time job. And I think to do good service to the county and the residents, it should be a full-time job. To have our finger on the pulse, you have to be present. You have to be available. You have to ask the questions. And so I'm all in. I mean, I'm ready, and if should I be elected, then I would leave my current position at the Veteran Service Office. And I dearly love my job there. At my age, to have a job like that is a blessing, but I'm reaching for something bigger, and I want to be a part of something bigger. And so, yes, it would absolutely be a full-time job, and I'm not going to work another job, have no desire to work another job. That's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Mr. Osborne?
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. The county commissioner is a full-time job. There's no question about that. I believe if you're going to do it well, you're going to have to do it that way. So, township trustee, it's got to go. Village administrator, it's got to go. Pastor ain't going nowhere. I'm going to be a pastor, but then, a big part of my pastor, of course, is meeting the needs of my people at certain times when something's going on or whatever, but we've got a very small congregation. I've been able to do that with the 2 other jobs. I can certainly do that with this job and remain full-time. The thing about the pastorate is it's mostly study, and I study in the evenings, I study on the weekends, I study in the wee hours sometimes, so no, it will not interfere with a full-time position as the county commissioner. Now, I know they meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays and that, but there's a lot more to it than that. You've got to be in the public space. You've got to shake hands. You've got to go to where the people are, and I'm all about that. I mean, I am all about that.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Mr. Sherman?
As I said before, this will be a full-time, it's a career for me. It's full-time. You have meetings at night, you have meetings in the morning before the commissioners. I understand that. My revised code says not to interrupt. So December 31st, when I'm elected, I will resign from being something that I am very proud of. I've already resigned my position at the Hardin County Engineer's Office to go to this position, so that's don't have to worry about that. Farming, I will continue to farm. I farm many times with the lights on my tractor. I farm after work, so that will not be a conflict. We all have cell phones, so if I need to be reached, I will be reached. 6 days I can be done planning. So with the hours you put in, that will not be a problem. I will be accessible. So at the end of the day, it's a full-time position. You have to be a full-time commissioner. There's not a, everybody up here said it. And the ones we have now in office are full-time commissioners. You stand every day at the courthouse. Might not be for 8 hours, but they're there every day because there's other meetings to go to. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Okay, that brings us to our end of our time for questions. We now have 2 minutes for your closing statements. Ms. Kelly, we'll begin with you.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone for their hard work of setting this up. It's been phenomenal. You know, the four of us have done really well together. We, I think, bring a lot to the table. Someone had told us that if they could put the four of us together and make us into one, that we would have the perfect combination. Unfortunately, that's not the case. You know, I just really hope that people take a look at each one of us and ask questions, reach out. You know, I have a Facebook page, I have a website, I'm always available for questions. I ask that you, if you haven't learned much about me this evening, that you please go there and read about me, read about some of my accomplishments, some of my thoughts, what I believe in, accountability, commitment, you know, service, communication, all of those things. All of those things need to happen in order for us to grow. And like I've said before, you know, the structure of the government is here. We just need to wrap our arms around it and push it. And we need to push it in good directions, positive directions. We need to do things for the community that want to keep people here. You know, whether that's bike paths and walking paths and outdoor things, or whether that's doing something for the people who are less fortunate in this county. There is always room for improvement, and I believe very much so that when you get the people involved, good things can happen. But we can't get the people involved if we're not out there talking to the people. If we're not out there talking to department heads, you know, if we're not out there talking to other elected officials, because their opinions matter, and how things affect them should be a concern for a county commissioner, because all that together makes us whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keller. Mr. Osborne.
Okay, I'm going to repeat what I said a couple weeks ago. 2,000 years ago, Christ changed the world with the gospel. 1,500 years after that, Martin Luther took that gospel and changed the way the Western world thinks with something we call liberty of conscience. 250 years after that, America was founded on those very principles of liberty of conscience. You see, what a man believes determines how he thinks, how he lives his life, how he spends his money, and how he governs. Every elected official in America, from the top to the bottom, takes a solemn oath, not how they're going to spend your money, not on the laws they're going to make. No, they take a solemn oath as to how they're going to preserve and protect your liberty. I will proclaim that message everywhere. I will hold it out before our children. I'm a creative thinker, like I said. I am a communicator. I am a problem solver. And I am determined to do what is best for the families of Hardin County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sherman.
Thank you. I'd just like to take a few seconds just to thank leadership. Thank you, ATN, everybody that put this on for us tonight. This way that people can actually see what all work is about. They can make their own decisions up. I'm truly proud of it. I want to thank my fellow candidates. We're putting ourselves up here for everybody to see. So at the end of the day, this is not what we usually do. But I do want to thank you for everything the way it's run so far. I truly appreciate it. I'm about growth. That's why I'm running. With growth, you will have opportunities. You will have a better tax base. Your schools will flourish. It's about growth, period. Sustainable growth. Once we get that, the infrastructure will be there. Then, next step, we need housing. Housing, that way the people come in, they have a nice place to stay. It's awesome, because 10 houses an hour, would that help you? Would that help you?
Sure would.
10 houses in Ridgewood, 10 houses everywhere. Doesn't have to be, huh? Growth. Growth in housing, people put their money in your community. They talk about volunteerism. If you live in a home, you're proud of it. So, if you get to go to school, you're proud of that school. You're going to wear red, green, yellow, purple. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody else. But at the end of the day, it's community minded. That's what I'm about. That's the only thing I'm about. I want growth. So without it, you might as well forget it. So, anyway, thanks again. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Mr. Castle.
Thank you, dear Bud, for putting on this. I sincerely appreciate everything that's happened tonight, and I hope the listeners got as much out of it as we did getting it. I'm not running for Hardin County Commissioner because I think I might be good at it. I'm running because I know that I have the experiences and qualifications to be a good commissioner. I'm a problem solver. I put out fires, and that's what I do with the patrol for 25 years, you can probably imagine. As an example of, what I believe a county commissioner needs to be, yesterday I was talking to a landowner, and this landowner was concerned because the neighbors on either side had signed for solar farms, but this landowner did not want to do it. And she was afraid that the solar company was going to force her to do it. Well, you may laugh at that, but I think it's a very serious issue. In the oil and gas business, there's a process called mandatory pooling. Or if an oil and gas company wants to drill, let's say, 1,000-acre unit, but there is a 5-acre landowner who doesn't want to participate, the company go to the state and force them to comply. I mean, all it's going to take is just the legislature to make a modification to our Revised Code 1509.27, which is mandatory pooling. And that's something that commissioners need to be aware of, and I will be aware of it because I know about the law. I know about oil and gas, I know about solar and wind. I'm not only able to react, but I can be able to prevent things from happening before they do happen. And this public concern is a very serious concern that nobody really knows about or takes notice of, but I know. So I just have the experience to handle a lot of problems, and I think I'd be a great commissioner, and I would appreciate everybody's vote.
Thank you, Mr. Kastner. That is all the time we have for our commissioner candidates. I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight and for your great answers. I want to thank WKTN and Kansas City Schools for allowing us to do this program this evening. But don't go anywhere because our state representative candidates are up next, and we'll be right back with them. question panel tonight is Frank Dudak, Melissa Humble, Andy Tudor, and Kirk Shepard. We will start our program with the introductions, and Mr. Cross, you have 3 minutes to give your intro.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for Hardin Leadership for putting on this fabulous event. This is a great opportunity just to talk a little bit more about our campaign, our policy, what we've got accomplished. But first, let me say this. Have you ever heard of an economy being taxed into prosperity? I haven't. The private sector drives our economy. Politicians don't create jobs. Job creators create jobs. I believe it's the role of government in a limited way to create an environment so businesses, schools, and communities can be successful. And the way we have done that over the last 6 years is we have cut your taxes by $3 billion, reducing your state income tax and business taxes. We have brought back $123 million. People say, John, go to Columbus and get resources for us. We went down and we brought back $123 million, not of grant money, of your tax dollars. Because you don't want to pay taxes twice. Why pay taxes twice when you send money to the state and you send money to your communities when we can bring that money back and make sure you don't have to pay extra taxes locally? We signed 12 bills into law where we've done some fabulous pro-life legislation, pro-adoption legislation. We've helped nurses, we've helped with workforce legislation, and we've helped countless upon countless constituents who need help. Even today, a gentleman who's having a hard time getting through unemployment. We're working through the bureaucratic red tape of helping people when they are in time of need. My name is John Cross. Many of you know who I am, and you know my family. We were born and raised in Hardin County, as we like to say. We're a proud graduate of Kenton City Schools. We're a proud graduate of The Ohio State University. And we're proud of the things that we have got accomplished in the legislature. And I'm just thankful for some of the folks that are here tonight who have endorsed our campaign. Thankful for Keith Everhart, our sheriff, our mayor of Kenton, our mayor of Forest and Alger, Tim Stryker, our county commissioner. I appreciate a lot of people who are lending their support amongst many great organizations across Ohio, which we will talk about. But tonight, I think we're very much looking forward to your questions, so people at home and who are tuning in across Ohio can hear more about our race, what we've got accomplished, and the things that we think are important for the 83rd District.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. You're welcome. Mr. Matthews.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out, and everyone that's viewing on Facebook, on the radio, I just wanted to thank you for being concerned about local politics and taking the time to do the research and to listen to what we have to say. My name is Ty Matthews, and I'm running for the 83rd House District. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up just on the county line. If you're familiar with Billtown, grew out in the country out there, right on the county line. Grew up in Arlington. Graduated from Arlington in 2013, and I'm a proud Arlington Red Devil. After high school, I went on to study at Cedarville University, which is a small Christian university near Dayton, Ohio. Most recently, I just got my master's degree from Liberty University in executive leadership. After college, I went on to work at the state treasurer's office, first as the state treasurer's special assistant, and then I worked in his policy shop at the policy aide. During that time, and currently, I serve in the Ohio Army National Guard. The last 9 years have been of service to my state and my nation. My greatest experience in the military so far has been my deployment, most recently to Iraq, where I returned in August. In Iraq, I served as a battle captain. There's 3 of us. And when we were on shift, we were in charge of the whole entire base defense of Union 3, which is downtown Baghdad. That included 29 NATO nations, special operations, special forces, and also embassy staff. The greatest threat to our soldiers right now, the greatest emerging threat we see, are drones. And on that base, I maintain target engagement authority. That was delegated to only 3 people. And what that means is if there was a hostile air track coming into Baghdad, we were authorized. We were the only 3 that could take that down. We could engage. Why I'm running? I'm a conservative. If you see on my logo, you'll see there's 3 stars. It stands for God, country, and family. That is what I live my life by and what I believe this country was founded upon. I believe that we need to restore integrity back into this office. I believe elected officials need to be held accountable. And I'm quite frankly tired of politicians saying one thing and doing another. That is why I'm running, and I appreciate your support, and I look forward to the questions later this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Now we'll start around the questioning. Mr. Dudak, you will have the first question, and Mr. Matthews, you will answer first.
Please explain why
Not only just my country, but also the state of Ohio. That service started when I enlisted as a chaplain assistant in the Ohio National Guard, and then commissioned as a second lieutenant, where my first duty assignment was a platoon leader in a dismounted reconnaissance troop. My leadership experience has been gained through leading men and women that serve this nation. My leadership philosophy is servant leadership. That means I serve you, the voter. I'm running for office because I believe in that. In the word representative, there's also the word represent. And through my gained leadership experience through the military, not just here stateside, but also in a combat zone, I believe I bring a strong presence of servant leadership, but also my time with the state treasurer has also given me insight with the state government and how genuine leadership that cares for the constituency truly acts.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Cross.
Thank you very much for that question. For some of you that know me well, you know that I kind of got bit by the political bug on my 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. That's what got me very excited in politics and government. And I'm sure I got a time in high school when kids would pick on me because I was the Republican who wanted to be Republican at 14 and just a proud lifelong Republican. But the best thing I ever did was not jump into politics right away. The best thing I did was explore careers, to go work in real estate development, to work in economic development, to go work in other states outside of Ohio. You know, I've worked in states that are not very business friendly. And I've worked in states like Texas that are extremely business friendly. It was that, I guess, not worldly view, but it was great to get outside Northwest Ohio. It was great to get outside Ohio to understand the rest of the country. And I think I'm a more mature candidate and a more mature legislator now in my 40s than I would have been at 19 running for office. And I think in the legislature, you only have up to 8 years to be in the Ohio House for 2-year terms. And that time goes by pretty quickly, just like it does in school. And so I think having an experienced legislator who knows how to get the job done, to get legislation done, to work really hard and strong for your district. I've got 2 more years left that the voters will have me back. And I think that's experience and leadership that you want to continue to do and have.
Thank you, Mr. Cross.
While we're working through that. Thank you.
Question 2 will be asked by Mr. Tudor, and Mr. Cross will be first to answer.
Thanks.
Good evening, gentlemen. Under a previous legislator in this district, state funding was noticed
about Hardin County. You all gave me a chance. 6 years ago, you said, we're going to send you to Columbus, and we need you to go to Columbus and put Hardin County on the map. And we've done that. It was 50 years since we had a legislator from Hardin County. And we worked really hard also in Hancock County and Logan County to make sure that they too were not left behind. We worked hard to build local relationships with business leaders, community leaders, and then we rolled up our sleeve and went to Columbus and got to work. And in the first 4 years, we passed really good legislation. We brought back significant funding. We made significant tax cuts. Because again, you only have a very limited time due to constitutional term limits to make a positive effect for your community. And that's what I want to do. I want to, what I have done in the last 6 years, I hope that you will give me 2 more years to go to Columbus and continue to do an even better job for Hardin County. And you heard the commissioner candidates here tonight. We have mayors and other elected officials in the audience. They are sending me to Columbus to help them, to help the constituents, to bring back resources, to bring back funding, to pass meaningful legislation, to help fix things in your Ohio Revised Code when it doesn't go for us. But what I'm really proud about is it's proud to go down there and put Hardin County on the map. Everyone knows who we are, what we stand for, and I'm proud to stand by the values of Hardin County.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Mr. Matthews.
Yeah, I said it, the previous question, servant leadership. I am here to represent you. In previous forums, we've talked about this, and among the commissioners' candidates, having monthly meetings with local elected officials to ensure that Hardin County's needs are being met, not only just with the elected officials, but with the constituents. My commitment is that Hardin County will not be forgotten. And what my commitment also is, I will never guarantee you anything that I cannot bring to the table. I also guarantee I will not claim that I have never raised taxes, and as soon as I get in, I raise the gas tax on each and every single Hardin County resident. My commitment to you is I will be honest and transparent to each and every one of you, and I will always go to bat for each and every one of you.
Thank you. Question 3 will be from Ms. Humble and Mr. Matthews, who will go first.
What is your plan for economic growth in the 80?
Government does not breed innovation. It's the private sector. You should not be sending me to Columbus to solve every single issue within the district. That is found here with the people of Hardin County and the businesses within Hardin County. I believe how we make Hardin County a more attractive place for business and a place to live is we cut the spending. We start cutting taxes. We start phasing out the income tax. And what that also means, I'm not against grant money. I hope we can bring back as much grant money as we possibly can to Hardin County. But that's our tax dollars. I think as Republicans, we've lost ourselves. We are supposed to be the party of fiscal conservatism. And yes, I would love to bring as much grant money back here as possible, but one of the issues our country is facing is inflation. That's the reckless spending we have through the government. Again, I want to reduce regulation and reduce your taxes and empower the people to come up with solutions that we are facing as a community, not the government.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Cross.
Let me answer the question you just asked. It's not about talking points. You asked about how can we help Hardin County bring economic development opportunities here. And that starts with making sure that we can support not just service-based and service businesses, but technology, advanced manufacturing. I don't want to bring jobs here that are wages. I want to bring salaried jobs here. And in order to do that, we have to fix aging infrastructure. We have to get brownfields redeveloped and flipped into green sites. We have to take money and appropriately at the state level and invest it into build-ready sites so our communities can do this. The state's not going to build Hardin County up. You all are. And what we're doing are providing the support mechanisms for you to be successful. Kenton is about ready to be going through a major transformational project, not only in their downtown, but I'm also pretty bullish of their 68 industrial corridor. Look at Ada, Ohio, with Wilson Football Factory and the beautiful new factory that was built there. It could have went anywhere, but we protected it, and Hardin Countyans kept that here in Hardin County. And so if we continue to deliver infrastructure, water, wastewater services, helping with housing, and other kinds of developments, it will give an opportunity for developers and business leaders to to bring economic opportunities, good jobs, good wages, good manufacturing type jobs, not just service-based jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Mr. Shepherd will ask question number 4. Mr. Cross, you will go first.
Thanks.
What would your legislative priority?
Thank you very much. First, it's not my priorities. It's the priorities of the 83rd District. You have to, number one, listen to your constituency. It's not about what Columbus wants. It's not about what the Republican Party wants. It's about what your constituency wants. And I believe after listening to our constituency over the last 6 years, they want us to keep working on reducing our taxes. We've cut your state income taxes in half. It's now tax time. As you start to prepare your tax documents, you're going to see that more money is going to go back in your pocket at a state level. We've cut the CAT tax, the commercial activity tax, and reduced it down so businesses don't feel the choking of the business taxes preventing them from doing well in the future. We also want to work on economic and workforce development policies. We have a great university here, great schools, great public schools that are getting our children ready for the workforce and continuing education. And we got to do a better job of keeping those kids in Ohio when they graduate. We lose up to 40% of our college graduates to out-of-state jobs. We need to work on keeping them right here in Ohio. And then last, safety. First, close our border. In order to do that, we need to elect President Trump to close our border. And second, we need to continue to work with our law enforcement to keep our communities safe, to help with the drug problem that's going on, and also to take care of issue 2, now that the voters allowed marijuana to be passed. We've got to put some safety rules and guidelines around what is about to happen with marijuana in public.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Mr. Matthews.
My priorities will be, 1, to restore integrity. And what I mean by that is we've had 6 years with a Republican supermajority to do everything that we are about to talk about. We've had a supermajority. Why isn't it done? 1, phasing out the income tax. 2, school choice, expanding the school voucher system. And 3, it's public safety. I agree. You know, the border is the issue we are facing as a nation right now. And my expertise and what I gained over in Iraq, one of those specific issues related to that, I believe, is this drone threat. And I would like to work on policy that we can start being proactive as a government rather than reactive to public safety when it comes to the threats, not only to our privacy with these devices, but also heinous threats that I will not go into because it's being aired, that pose a very, very high risk to not only just Kenton, Ohio, Findlay, Ohio, Columbus, throughout the state. So I think we need to start being proactive with talking about these emerging technologies like AI, these drones, so that we do not have to be reactive when lives are at stake and that your money is at stake because of hacking.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Question 5 will come from Mr. Dudek. And Mr. Matthews, you will go first.
We're in a school building.
Preface this because there's a lot of misinformation that is published out there through sound bites. So I want to be clear. I am not anti-public school. I'm a proud Arlington Red Devil. I believe in school choice. I believe in school choice because I believe that your tax dollars should follow your children. It should be your choice on how your tax dollars are spent. And there is a complete, I don't even know where this number comes out there, that this is going to require a tax raise. Just look at EdChoice. You just Google edchoice.com. You'll see other states are doing this, and the costs are lower. So yes, I believe that we need innovative solutions for our education system. We have great schools here in Hancock County and Hardin County. However, we need a plan for the future. To just think that since everything is okay right now, it's always going to be okay is foolish. We need to stay competitive so we can compete with our European allies and also our adversaries, the Chinese and the Russians. I believe by instilling, again, it's this free market principle of competition. schools should also compete. And this is my quote that I will stand by. Once we start loving an institution more than the product of that institution, we've lost our way. We should be preparing the future for our children and not an institution.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Cross?
Yeah, first, my opponent asks all the time, look up the information. Well, where does that $2 billion tax number come from? Right here. This is the Legislative Service Commission memo that says in the first year, it'll raise your taxes by $1.3 billion. And in the second year, it'll raise your taxes by $1.3 billion. So I was a little short. It's going to raise your taxes by $2 billion. It's going to defund public schools. It's going to put teachers out of jobs. They're going to privatize all of our schools. And everything that we worked hard for, to wear red and white colors, the Ada Bulldog colors, the Hardin Northern school colors, the Ridgemont school colors. There is no school choice in Hardin County. The school choice is where do you play Friday night football and where do you want to go because you were a parent that went to that school. And I'm going to support our public schools. The reason why my opponent is in this race is not because he wants to run. He's being backed by out-of-state funding by Charles Koch and the Koch brothers, and money coming in to support his campaign, to put out nasty mailers, and it's all about school choice. This campaign and this reelection is not about anything else than he wants to defund public schools. He wants to take away your money, and I'm trying to protect our public schools, our great public schools here in the 83rd District with great teachers, great students, great staff. I will work and continue to fight hard for our public schools and protect people like this from defunding our public schools.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Question number 6 will be given by Mr. Tudor, and Mr. Cross, you will go first.
We were supportive of H2 Ohio. The governor rolled it out, and we actually funded it very well in the last couple of budgets. As a matter of fact, it worked so well in the first budget we passed it, we continued on with it. First, right here in Kenton, Ohio, I never knew this till a few years ago, but Summit Street, everything north of the Summit Street, the watershed goes to Lake Erie, everything south of the Summit Street heads to the river, the Ohio River. And Indian Lake, we're working really hard trying to provide lots of resources and funding, not only to take care of the weed vegetation growth that was happening in the water, but also working to start dredging the lake to get our water quality better, but also make the lake safer, a little deeper, and just maintain a beautiful lake in Ohio. Secondly, also protecting Lake Erie. But my concern is not with our farmers. I appreciate our farmers. I want our farmers to continue to invest in livestock, continue to farm, continue to put nutrients, and do all the things they need to do to grow great product. What I'm concerned about are cities like Maumee and Toledo dumping raw sewage into Lake Erie. It's not the farmer's problem. It's the cities along Lake Erie who continue to ignore EPA issues and dump sewage into Lake Erie that causes the problem. So H2 Ohio, yes, working to help our farmers continue to do great things with great technology and great treatments, but I'm also got my eye on big cities along Lake Erie who are doing bad things causing water treatment problems.
Mr. Matthews.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to address a lot of things really quick here, going back just a little bit on this previous question. My opponent wants to portray himself as the advocate for public schools, while I believe one of his children go to a private school in Findlay currently. Also, if you look at where the money is coming from, groups that are backing me are advocating for school choice rather than my opponent, who is being funded by groups through the board of the Ohio Education Association that is openly endorsing Joe Biden. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly because he addressed me on that. So water quality.
Silliness.
We are very, very, very blessed here in Ohio with our natural resources. And it is one of the reasons why we need to utilize these and protect these here in Ohio. Again, farmers get a lot of blame for the phosphorus in the creeks and the rivers that flow into Lake Erie. I believe that it's not just the farmers that are the issue. It's also the cities, like my opponent said. You know, you look at Maumee, a couple of years ago, they were caught with raw sewage being dumped into the creeks and the rivers. I believe that instead of the government getting completely involved in regulating our farmers, we need to cut regulation, but also have proper oversight through the plenty of agencies that we currently have through the government.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. We will go on to question number 7. Ms. Stumble, you will have a question, and Mr. Matthews, you will go first.
Ohio is considering abolishing the state income tax. Where do you stand?
Be one of our top priorities, and I would say we've had a Republican supermajority the last 6 years, so this should have been already done. We're not going to do this just in 1 year. This needs to be phased out, and I believe it's phased out over 8 years of what they currently have. And how we can do that is we can look at the spending, like I talked about earlier, that is out of control at the state level and also at the federal level, right? Looking at our social welfare services that have gotten completely out of control, that started off as a safety net, but now have become a lifestyle. I believe that we need to incentivize work, and looking at cutting programs, such as these social welfare programs, is one of the ways we can do this. But also, you look at already the amount of our taxes that get dished out back to us through grant money. There's plenty of money out there that we already pay through our taxes to make this work. So I believe that, and again, I'm open to these solutions. It shouldn't just be me coming up with these innovative ideas in Columbus, right? I don't believe Columbus and people in suits develop the best solutions for our communities. I believe it is here with the people of Hardin County, the people of Ohio, and talking to business owners on how we can make this work for not just the community, but the people of each and every village here in the 83 House District.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. We'll move on to question number 8.
Well, I'd like to answer that question.
Oh, well, let's go ahead and answer that.
First off, to my opponent, shame on you for bringing my son in the middle of this conversation. What you don't know, because you failed to look it up, is we're proud to put my youngest son in our Catholic school in Findlay because we are strong Catholics and have a strong Catholic faith. What you also don't know is that we turned down the voucher because we didn't want to take money away from our other son's public school, which is Findlay, Ohio. So I hope you feel this tall that you just try to throw my son under the bus, but you have no clue on the facts. We've already cut the state income tax. We've took it from 7% down to 2.75%, and we're going to take it down to 0. And what my opponent doesn't understand, saying that we have a supermajority, why can't we do it here? This is where his inexperience comes into play. You don't take it down to 0 tomorrow because everyone in the room who's on Medicaid loses their Medicaid. Our prisons won't have money to keep prisoners in jail. And we will continue to defund education because if you take income tax down to 0 tomorrow, you cut $20 billion in the budget. And when you cut $20 billion in the budget, you hurt a lot of people. What you do is you start to slow drip this thing over the next few years, and eventually we'll get that down to 0. And Ohioans will want to stay in Ohio because it's now competitive. Other states don't have a state income tax. We don't want to have it either, so we can keep more people here and widen our tax base, not shrink our tax base.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Now we will move on to question number 8. And question number 8, Mr. Shepherd will be reading the questions, and Mr. Cross will go first.
Safety is always a concern in our communities, especially when it comes to safety funding. Where do you stand on allocating funds
because these are things we're doing. I'm proud to have the endorsement of our Sheriff Keith Everhart and Logan County Sheriff Randy Dodds. Because when I first got elected, they said, John, we got to have better funding for Mark's radio so we can all talk to each other and have good communications. When the Highway Patrol was in a shootout with a local police department, they couldn't talk to each other because they didn't have the proper radio equipment. We have fixed that. We've got that in a better situation. Second, we're working on money for law enforcement training, so our law enforcement can have the best training possible to have, to keep our communities safe. And third, we have to recruit more people into law enforcement. And I can imagine, just like trying to recruit people to run for office, when your opponent's running nasty campaigns and throwing nasty mailers at you from out-of-state money, how hard is it for that law enforcement officer to go to work every day when people want to say defund the police, when they want to kick our law enforcement to the curb? I've got their back and they have mine. And I have proven time and time again over the last 6 years, we're probably the most pro-law enforcement legislature that we've had in quite some time. And I'm proud to support the men and women who put the badge on every day to keep us safe.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Mr. Matthews.
Yes, as an infantry officer, training soldiers, I look at this as, linking funding to where it's actually going into law enforcement. I think it's training, training, and training. That funding, we need oversight on. And we need to trust our law enforcement that when they react to the worst possible case scenario, that they have that training to properly conduct their battle drills, their standard operating procedures, and that the culture in that community also surrounds them. Again, it's a lot of this is a cultural issue. We need our children to understand that these officers within the schools are there for them. It mimics a lot of the servant type of leadership I talked about earlier. When it comes to funding law enforcement within the schools, I think we need an increased presence of service officers that come to the schools and interact with not just high schoolers, but kids through the elementary school, through middle school. So there is a relationship that is built with these officers, and respect is built between the two.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. We have time for one more question. And Mr. Dudek, you will have the question, and Mr. Matthews, you will go first.
We are number 9, correct?
Yes.
Some high-speed rail.
On allocation of state resources, right? And this is going back to the spending I talked about. I believe we need to start talking about issues, not just at the state level, at the local level, and at the business level on how we're going to make this work. I'm tired as a Republican, quite frankly, as a fiscal conservative, that every single one of these issues that we've talked about this evening has been linked to government funding. We are supposed to be the party that ensures the free market, that businesses, that local government has the ability to address all these issues. Listen, there's plenty, and you said rail, correct?
High-speed rail.
High-speed rail project.
Right, that is a private company. I am against almost, this is my philosophy again, almost any private company, including solar and wind, that needs a government subsidy, I am opposed to. I believe these private companies, they can figure it out themselves. They have the innovative, they have the minds that can figure this out. And I believe my tax dollars should not be going to subsidize certain people within the community that are going to benefit from high-speed rail, from solar, from wind, and certain companies that we seem to want to pick and choose as the government, as the state government, to receive these funds.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Cross.
The high-speed rail in California turned out to be a boondoggle, and it's probably going to be a boondoggle here. I wouldn't support very many state dollars if we have any state dollars to allocate for that. I'm not sure we do. Most of it's being driven by federal subsidies. So I encourage you to contact your congressman and tell them that high-speed rail through Hardin County is a boondoggle. What we need is money to make sure that semi-trucks can get through Kenton safely. We need to make sure that seniors in our community who don't have access to public transportation in rural areas can get better, reliable access to transportation. There are a bunch of COTA buses in Columbus that sit there and go empty up and down High Street all day. But we have to fight like hell to get dollars to come back to rural Ohio for transportation. That's experience that matters in this race. You need someone to go down and understand what's happening in Columbus and Cleveland and Cincinnati and how the big triple Cs are doing the song and the dance to fund all these big urban city things, but we are fighting for scraps. I've been not accused, but certainly saying, boy, John's tough. You know, he's tough, but nice guys don't win in Columbus. You got to be tough, and you got to stand up to the bullies. You got to stand up to the big triple Cs that want to take all the money and all the resources and leave us with scraps. Hardin County's not going to get scraps. I've proven the last 6 years, and we're going to keep doing it the next 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Now it's time for our closing statements. You have 2 minutes, and Mr. Cross, you will go first.
First, it is an incredible honor to do any kind of public service job. The people that I report to, my bosses, are 120,000 people that represent the 83rd District in Hancock, Hardin, and Logan County. I don't report to party bosses. I don't report to people in Columbus. I report to all of you, people watching at home. And you sent me to Columbus to do a job. And I am fighting hard for our Republican principles and our Republican priorities. I voted to put the right people in the right places to make sure that we have the right leadership. I don't want to go to Columbus to be told what to do. I want to go to Columbus and lead a legislative agenda that we can be proud of here in Hardin County, that our party can be proud of, and we use those guiding principles, right? We all are pro-life, pro-Second Amendment. I mean, when my opponent talks about military drones, I'm not worrying about Kenton getting bombed by a military drone. We have the Second Amendment. We'll shoot the son of a bitch down, okay? What I really care about is making sure that we take care of the priorities and the values that matter for Hardin County. These are hardworking people. These are people that wake up every day and put food and water on their table, and they want a better community. They want a better community for their next generation. And I take this job with great responsibility. And I go to Columbus and I fight like hell for you. And I'm asking you to give me 2 more years to go run the score up. And then when you get someone new two more years from now, we will help them. We will help them as they become a freshman, new legislator, not even knowing where the bathrooms are. We will be there to help them be successful, because I hope the next legislator is more successful than I am, and so on and so forth. And that's how you make the 83rd District really great. Love you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Mr. Matthews.
Thank you very much for having us tonight, and thank you for the lively, I know it was supposed to be a debate, but at some point it turned into a debate. And thank you for the viewer tuning in, to watching. Thank you for being concerned. Thank you for taking the time to hearing us out. And this is just as a job interview. And I hope I earn your support March 19th. There is going to be a lot of misinformation out there. And there's currently a lot of misinformation out there. And I want to address those really quick. Some of those accuse me of voting for the Democrats. I have never done that, but I know someone who has. My opponent sided with the minority Democrats last January, which is known as the Blue 22. If you look up theblue22.com here in Ohio, you'll find exactly what I'm talking about. And that resulted in a censure from the Republican Party. He lost his Ohio Republican Party endorsement because of that act. Again, integrity is what is on the ballot this March. I am standing here before you, asking for your support, asking you to partner with me, asking you to keep me accountable while I'm in Columbus so that I am serving you rather than self-interest of a speaker vote. I am running because I believe in this district. I believe that we need to return to the original principles of our government, that you are sending me to Columbus to represent you and not myself. Every mailer you get, I urge you to Google it. If you Google the false information on me, you won't find it, because it's false. They're lies. On my opponent, you'll find exactly what we're talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Thank you, gentlemen, for your responses this evening. It's been an interesting program, but that is all the time we have. Thank you for tuning in this evening, and thanks to all the candidates for being here. We'd like to thank Kenton City Schools and Superintendent Chad Thrush for allowing us to use their facility this evening. Thanks to WKTN for providing the video and airtime for us tonight. We'd like to thank each of our question panelists and the committee for organizing this event again this year. Election Day is March 19th, 2024, and early voting has already begun. Thank you again, and good night.
You've been listening to Meet the Candidate, brought to you by Hardin Leadership and the Hardin County Chamber and Business Alliance in conjunction with WKTN. Sponsors have included FLR Insurance Center, Quest Federal Credit Union, Stillwater Metal, Middlefield Bank, and Golden Giant. We thank you for tuning in to this presentation and remind you to make sure to get out and vote.